Hello, everyone. Like when it's sunny, you feel better, and the weather is better because you can go out. I'm so happy and very excited. Finally, we have summer here in Toronto. And hello, everyone. Green Healing Show, another beautiful day with Dr. Ritamarie Loscalzo, and she's a founder of Institute of Nutritional Endocrinology. Oh my goodness, endocrinology. And she has a long history. I really wish she um, to introduce herself to you. Welcome to my show, Rita. Oh, sorry. Yeah, welcome.
So sorry, I was muted. So welcome. I'm very excited to be here. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, I actually read your bio. I'm very, very excited. You have a great background. You are a occupational therapist, and then
No.
again, not doctor of
Doctor of chiropractic.
Oh, chiropractic. Oh, sorry.
And
Doctor of
nutrition.
chiropractic. Yeah, and then you've been in functional medicine for a while, and now you have your own institute, which is great. And you are an author, which I can see your book at the back. So tell me about yourself. So how did you end up to be a functional medicine, and how did you start your journey? Did you have your healing journey, or okay, tell me.
Yeah. Like so many people in functional medicine, we have our own healing crisis. And I feel very lucky that I had a healing crisis in my mid-20s, because a lot of people don't have those healing crises until much later. And there's just a lot more you can do the younger you are. But I was frustrated. I was frustrated that I couldn't get help. I'd been to, a sinus doctor, ENTs. I'd been to doctors about the headaches, neurologists. I'd been to gastroenterologists about my stomach. I had all these problems and nobody could tell me nothing's wrong with you. And I was frustrated. And I was like, I finally said, could it be my diet? Because I'd had a history of, not being on a very good diet, of being always very concerned about my weight. And so if I gained a few pounds, I'd go on whatever the latest crash diet was. And I was struggling. I was struggling with headaches and sinus problems and gut problems that every time I ate, I'd double over in pain, and they thought it was an ulcer. And I finally, one day in the gastroenterologist's office, when they said, we have good news for you. There's nothing, you don't have an ulcer. It's good. And I'm like, oh, yay, great. What's wrong with me and what can I do? And they said, well, we don't know. Just keep taking the ulcer medication.
Oh my goodness. And how, before you continue, that's interesting. These symptoms are not really related. When you see headache, sinus, and you had gut issue, right?
Yeah.
So, see, it's interesting. Okay, continue.
Right. We seem, as a layperson or even a Western trained doctor, we don't connect those symptoms. I didn't know that they were connected. I thought they were discrete. So I went to the separate doctors for them. Right. I had no idea that it was all, toxicity. It was nutritional imbalances. It was blood sugar imbalances. It was hormonal dysregulation. I had no idea that it was all related. And then I finally started researching, and this was in the 1980s. This was not in the day of the internet. So researching was not easy. And so I, started reading and go to the library, and I finally found a solution, and the solution was not where I expected it to be. I was sitting in a gas station waiting for my tires to be rotated. And this man came up to me, and I was reading yet another nutrition book. And I think it was the 5-day allergy relief system or something. And I'm reading this book voraciously. And he comes over, he says, oh, are you experiencing some health challenges? And I explained to him, oh, yeah. And we got into this conversation, and he told me that I needed to fast. This was in 1985. Yeah, it was in 1985, before the popularity of fasting and intermittent fasting and ketogenic diets and all this. And he told me I needed to fast. And I just proudly proclaimed that, oh, yes, I did a fast. But as soon as I started eating again, I started to feel ill again. And he said, "Oh, that's because you didn't fast long enough." And I'm like, "Huh? What is this guy nuts? Like, I didn't I said, "I fasted for 5 whole days, like this book recommended." And he goes, you didn't fast long enough. Here's a card. He gave me a card. He gave me a book to read. And I went off. And I was like curious. So I got the book, Fasting Can Save Your Life. And I started reading about fasting. I started learning about detoxification and liver toxicity and diets that are missing essential nutrients and stress and just all these things that now I practice and teach. And I'm like, wow, it was an eye opener for me. I had just grown up as a normal, kid in a normal environment. And we just went to the doctor every time we had an ache or pain. So I actually worked on some of the stuff. I fasted, I cleansed, I changed my diet, I changed my attitude, I changed my lifestyle, and I healed. Like all of those problems that seemed to be disparate entities were not. They were all connected to my body being out of balance. And that's what I focus on now, is getting people's body back in balance, whether it's fertility, whether it's headaches, whether it's gut stuff. It's all a matter of something out of balance in the body. And so that's when I decided to leave my very lucrative career in the computer industry and go back to school. And I tell people I went back to school to learn new hardware and software, because I've always been a diagnostician at heart. I've always been that person who can problem solve. And now it's like, I want to help other people, because this was ludicrous that I had to go through all this to just find a solution.
Did you study IT those days?
Oh yeah, my master's was in computer science.
Oh,
Right?
me
And that
too.
was back in the day. Oh, you too? Really?
Yeah.
Back in the day of punch cards? This is how it shows you
No,
how old I
not
am.
punch card for me, but
Well,
I'm a bit younger than you. But yeah, I did my master in Australia about IT, and then I had the same thing. Just get back to health
yeah.
science. Yeah, but you have a chiropractic degree. How did you end up to go to that
Yeah.
route?
That's a
Yeah.
great question. So it was like, okay, what do? I want to go back to school. I want to become a doctor so that I can have people come to me and I can help them with these solutions. And I looked at medical school, and I was 28 at the time, maybe. I don't remember exactly how old, but I was in my late 20s. And I'm like, oh, I have to go back to school. This. And then I thought, they're going to be teaching me stuff that's not in alignment with what I now believe. And I'm going to have to go through and kind of pretend that I believe that giving people drugs is the solution, or cutting them open is the solution. So I said, well, what else is there? So I didn't know much about chiropractic, but I knew that where I lived, which was California, chiropractors are licensed as primary care doctors, and that we could work with people. And if they needed surgery, I could send them off for surgery. But for the most part, I could help them. And I really got into chiropractic because of the approach was about balance, right? Balance the nervous system. But I went, well, it's more than the nervous system. It's the nervous system and the endocrine system, and it's the whole system. So I decided to go to chiropractic, mainly because it was 6 miles away from where I lived, and I didn't have to move. And I had a husband at the time, so I didn't want to leave him behind or have him have to relocate, because he had a good job. So I left and I went back to school. And while I was in chiropractic school, I did a University of Bridgeport had a remote learning program in nutrition. So I got my master's degree in nutrition on the weekends while I was in chiropractic school during the week. And I graduated and came out with the idea that I was going to help people to truly get well and get to the root cause.
So how did you said nutrition? You mean functional medicine? Because I'm not sure those days there were
No,
any
that was
functional
it predated functional medicine, but it was a master's degree in nutrition from the University of Bridgeport, and they did a remote. Now they have an online program. But where I learned a lot of the functional medicine was on the weekends again. So when the weekends I wasn't in this master's in nutrition, I was taking Jeffrey Bland had courses like crazy, and Jonathan Wright, and some of the early pioneers in functional medicine is who I really learned a lot of that from. Yeah.
because that's interesting. Can you believe it? I never heard about functional medicine. Uh, just before my having the like fertility issues, I didn't know about any functional medicine, anything.
Mhm.
I even didn't believe in acupuncture too much, or even naturopathy, nothing.
Mm.
And then I had my struggles, and then I started interviewing with people, and I see, wow, functional medicine is a great science.
Mhm.
And I didn't know that it already existed there many,
Mhm.
many years. But then I said, that's why this science needs more awareness, because not everybody knows about it.
That's right.
We
That's
are
right.
ordinary, like as me, which as an ordinary person that didn't have any clue about health science, I didn't know about this. And I
Yep.
was really suspicious even about the holistic medicine. I was thinking, oh, this is something not working for it. But no, I'm learning about functional medicine and I'm studying it. I just realized, wow, this is whole new thing for me, and it's really great. And you don't need to be a doctor to help others with the health issues.
Mhm.
And then I realized, yes, medical doctors are good for a specific diagnosis. When you have like a specific surgery or a specific thing that needed a
Critical
specialist.
care. Yeah,
Yes,
like critical care, like emergency
exactly,
care.
exactly.
Yeah.
So how your medical degree help you for functional medicine?
Oh, by providing me with the how does the body work? The biochemistry, the anatomy, the physiology, the pathophysiology, and what is the typical approach to a specific condition. So we have plenty of that, right? And the differential diagnosis. How do you really ask the right questions to be able to understand where something's going wrong? That helped me tremendously, right? And that's again, like I said, I was in computers, so that was just to me, it was just using different hardware and different software to get at what's wrong when something doesn't work the way it's supposed to. So you're not supposed to get doubling over pain in your stomach after you eat. That's something wrong. Well, what could all those possibilities be? And when you know the anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, everything and how it works, boom, it just like clicks. And that's what I teach people in my Nutritional Endocrinology Institute is I get all kinds of practitioners coming in. We get medical doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, health coaches, but we even get people who are just educated about their own health and they're like so looking for answers that they're ready to learn the science and ready to get to the root cause and become empowered to take charge of their own health.
I have a lot of questions from you, and I love what we're talking. Just a few second break, and we come back. Please subscribe to Panta Calhoun Transition channel and order my book Naturally Conceived through Amazon. Thank you for watching. Okay, Rita, let's get back to our topic: how to restore energy and mental focus. Just, just telling you this. A lot of my clients, fertility clients, have these problems. So
Mhm.
this is going to be very interesting for them because they always complain. They don't have enough focus and they don't have enough energy. How can you help them?
Well, first of all, you have to find out why. I'm a big fan of the word why. Three-letter word begins with W, and it's the clue to everything. Like why? So why do they have those problems? So energy problems can be related to, could be mitochondrial dysfunction, it could be thyroid dysfunction, it could be blood sugar imbalance, which I find a lot of times. It could be dysregulation in their gut, right? Poor microbiome. It could be nutrient imbalances, liver detoxification. So the first thing is to understand why they have low energy. What is the imbalance or imbalances that are causing that? And the same thing with mental focus. It could be any number of those things. What I find a lot of the times is hidden blood sugar imbalances that nobody's ever taught them about.
Yeah, I know the American diet is not really good option for us, and we have a lot of problem with sugar. You can't believe we don't have sugar at home. It's been a years. It's been years I don't have it. Recently,
Mhm.
unfortunately, my daughter loves chocolate, so I don't know. I can't deprive her from eating chocolate. Sometimes I give her some prize, but I don't eat chocolate. I try not to. And yeah, tell me more about your steps of restoring energy. And I know that you said you have to do the assessment, the total
Mhm.
assessment to see where the root cause is.
Right.
But yeah, tell me more about this.
Well, I start with asking people a full health history. So, what are the symptoms? What other symptoms are going along with this? If you're working with people who have fertility issues and they have no energy, there's a number of things that contribute to fertility issues, right? That also contribute to low energy. So I just ask lots of questions, and then once I've asked a lot of the questions, then I'll determine. I'll look at their labs, generally speaking, that they had gotten from their doctor every year, and there's a lot of hidden nutritional gems in just a standard blood chemistry that most medical doctors aren't trained for. It's more from a functional medicine approach that you look and say, wow, the ratio between these two markers is off, or your insulin, or now they don't never test insulin, but let's say your iron is high and your ferritin is low, or this and that and the other thing. So we look for what are some of those clues. And then if there's more detailed analysis required, then we'll look at some functional medicine testing, looking at hormones, looking at mitochondrial function, looking at digestive function, looking at deeper at blood sugar function.
Let's be get more specific. Let's be more specified about thyroid,
Mhm.
because I know again a lot of people have this problem and they go to doctor and they
Mhm.
see that is in normal range. The medical doctor usually, if they are smart, they said yes, this is normal range, but you are very close to the border.
Mhm.
So what is this ratio? Let's say T3, T3, T4, free T3, T4 you get for your blood assessment. So just be more
Talk through
specific.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
So specifically, most medical doctors only test TSH. That's just what they're taught. If the TSH is not in the quote unquote normal range, and I'm going to challenge that range, but if it's not in that normal range, then they'll go ahead and test maybe T4 and see if that's out of balance. But here's the thing, the normal range is actually the average range, the average of the people that are coming through that lab. And it's not actually optimal. So in a functional medicine approach, we're looking for the optimal range, which is usually much narrower than the quote unquote normal range. So first of all, TSH alone doesn't tell you anything about how the thyroid is functioning. It just tells you that the pituitary gland up in your head has to work really hard to get the thyroid to do anything, which might be sluggish thyroid, but it also could be that the pituitary gland is overproducing, that it's not reading the blood signals properly, because there's a number of reasons. So with thyroid, I generally recommend a comprehensive test, which would be TSH, total T4, which even most functional medicine doctors don't do, but that's what the thyroid's actually producing. So you need to know, because you want to find out where in the chain it's breaking down. Total T4, free T3. I don't even test reverse T3 unless it's further down, because usually I can guess what the free T3 is going to be based on those. And if I don't get the right answers, I can go back because it's a little more expensive, but also antibodies. And that's where most conventional medical doctors don't even bother with antibodies, because they don't
Yeah,
know.
that's a good one. Yeah, tell me about this.
They don't know what to do about it. That's different. Oh, your TSH is high. Here's some synthroid medicine. And that doesn't address the problem. So if you have, there's all kinds of things. I could spend like 2-3 hours talking about this, but if you've got the thyroid producing a certain amount of thyroid hormone, it's in a form that's bound to protein. So then it has to be converted to the free form of that hormone, and the protein is stripped away. So the free form gets into the cells. Well, the free T4, this very fractional, tiny fraction of the total that's produced. And then the T4 has to be converted to T3, because that's what actively activates the cells, gets into the cell receptors. And what happens is if you look at the labs and you've got a really hefty amount of free T4, and a very small amount, even if they're in the normal range and even if they're in the optimal range, both of them, if the ratio between them, there's a lot more T4 than there is T3, it means that there's an issue with converting from T4 to T3. And that's what most doctors
Wow, that
miss.
was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing is if there's a lot of total T4, but the free T4 is lower at the low end of the range, then it means that for some reason that protein is not able to be stripped away from the hormone. And that could be related to estrogen levels or testosterone levels, right? Elevated or depressed on that. And so we have to look at all of these numbers and get the big picture. So when you look at those things, you go, oh, look at that. There's a conversion role. Well, what are the things? Goes back to biochemistry and anatomy, physiology. What are the things that cause the T4 to get converted to T3? What are some of the nutrients that are involved in that deiodinase enzyme is what the enzyme is called in order to convert from T4 to T3. And we look at that and we go, oh, selenium might be involved. Oh, excess cortisol or not enough cortisol. So adrenal fatigue or adrenal dysregulation can be involved. So we have to look at all of those steps. And even if you look at everything and everything looks normal in terms of thyroid and everything looks optimal in terms of thyroid, you can still have a problem because a person's complaining about constipation, dry skin, their hair's falling out, they have no energy, they're depressed. You go, that's a thyroid problem. If it looks like a thyroid problem, it sounds like a thyroid problem, you have to dig deeper. And so what can happen is the receptors on every cell, and every cell in the body has a receptor for thyroid because it controls metabolic rate. So you look and you go, wait a minute, if there's plenty of all this in the blood, why isn't it getting into the cells? And that's something called thyroid receptor resistance. And just like we have insulin resistance that a lot of people have heard of, most people haven't heard of thyroid resistance. So then we have to look at, okay, what are the things that help the receptors pick up the thyroid hormone? And how do we figure out what's out of balance with that?
Wow, I like that. I mean, the reasoning behind it, it's so interesting. I like that. And I have a question. Like somebody who is trying to conceive and they still have thyroid issue, is there any natural way? Because they have to take the medication for their thyroid. Is there any natural way they don't take the medication, or uh, until they get better and not rely on those medication? Or
It's certainly possible. Again, it depends on what the cause of that is, right? If their thyroid has been destroyed, like say they've had radiation or they were exposed to a lot of x-rays and the thyroid has been destroyed, or if there's a lot of those antibodies that have destroyed the tissue and the body can't make the thyroid medication anymore, then most likely not. But for the most part, it depends on the cause. So you identify the cause, you address the cause. And if somebody's on thyroid medication because their TSH is high because the doctor said that, if it's a T4 to T3 conversion issue, we can work on the adrenals, right? We can have people take adaptogens. We can help them change their diet. If they're on gluten and gluten actually cross-reacts with the thyroid and can cause the antibody reaction against the thyroid, we get them off of gluten. If they're on a lot of sugar, thyroid and blood sugar are like intimately related. So the insulin dysregulation can cause it. If they have insulin resistance, it can cause thyroid resistance. If they have low vitamin A status, and sometimes people have low vitamin A status because they have a specific genetic difference, let's just say. We don't call them defects, but difference, that they don't convert their beta carotene to vitamin A. They need more. That can cause thyroid receptor resistance, high levels of homocysteine because of a B12, B6, or folate deficiency. So you see that there's no like specific answer like, oh, if somebody has low thyroid, put them on this herb. That's a allopathic approach, a this for that approach.
exactly,
Right?
exactly. That's why so many people never completely healed from thyroid, because instead of root cause, they just they try to be healed from the symptoms. But by the time the root cause is there, the symptoms going to get back because you haven't be healed from the symptoms.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
totally right. And I've
that's so
seen people
interesting.
who had been on thyroid. We had one lady came to our blood sugar balancing program. She was 65 years old. She had been on thyroid medication till she was 14. She'd been told she had Hashimoto's, an autoimmune thyroid condition, and that she would just have to be on this for the rest of her life. She came into our blood sugar balancing program because her blood sugar was creeping up. It was in the 100 and teens, 115 or something. And the doctor said, "Oh, you're going to be diabetic soon. Come back in 6 months and we'll put you on medication for that." And she's like, "Huh? Like, what are you, crazy?" So she got into our program and really did the work to get her blood sugar balanced. And guess what? 4 months later, not only was she like 75 pounds lighter than she was, but her Hashimoto's was gone.
Wow.
And she's been 10 years since then. She's still off the thyroid medication.
Rita, I've seen this in PCOS patients
Mm.
because they say, "Oh, I have PCOS," and they are labeled with the PCOS. But that's so interesting. They may have some underlying issues that this is not really related to PCOS or any fertility issues, and then by removing the and that can be gut issue. God
Oh,
related. It's
absolutely. Yeah.
interesting. It's so interesting how every pieces of your body related to each other.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the beauty of functional medicine. Nutritional endocrinology is what I teach, because we look at how do all these pieces connect with each other, and we have to treat them and work with somebody to balance them, not in a vacuum, but in a place of, okay, what's out of balance and how do they connect to each other?
Yeah. Okay, Rita, we have a few minutes left. I just want to go back to your website. What do you have there? And you have a Facebook page. Can you explain?
Sure. My Facebook page is Dr. You have it flashing across the screen. So Dr. Ritamarie Loscalzo, and I do posts and I do Facebook Lives once a week, and we do various and sundry things there. And on my website, we have some programs that we offer. But the main thing is that the goal is to help people balance their bodies, and then to teach practitioners how to teach people how to get their bodies in balance, how to do the right lab testing, how to assess, how to get them on the right foods, how to actually guide people to change their diets, which is critical. Change their diets and their stress levels and all the other good things.
Beautiful. And can you show us your book?
Oh, my book. It's called Unstoppable Health.
Uh-huh.
And this is what I want for everybody, to
I love
feel
the
unstoppable.
cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the
Okay.
picture is means a lot to me, that picture, because here's a little twig and the boulder is sitting on top of it. But that plant was not going to be stopped from growing in spite of the boulder. And that's what I want for people, regardless of how serious your health issues seem to be. There's a root, and you can get improvement by addressing your diet, your lifestyle, your sleep, your attitudes, and all of the hormones and all of the organ systems relate to each other. And you can't just treat one thing in a vacuum.
Exactly. You can't. You definitely need a lot of addressing some root cause to see, like, that's, as I said, that's so interesting when you have some symptoms for a long time and you
Mhm.
cannot cure it, because that's not the way to cure the symptom. You have to go and find what is related to symptom, what is created that symptom, as you
What's
said,
created it?
why why you have that.
Why? It's my
Yeah.
favorite word. Why?
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. I really enjoy this, and I really learned so much from you. Thank you so
Great.
much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.